Good morning, everyone. My name's Latoya, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Pieces of Lily. If this is your first time with us, welcome. On this channel, we primarily talk about all things related to being a parent of a child with autism. If you find that there are certain topics that you want to discuss or maybe want me to share a little bit about, please drop those in the comments below, and I will try my best to respond to any of you guys' suggestions. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about insurance. And I want to discuss this because it is so fresh on the brain and in our lives. We had a few little issues with insurance this week, and I just want to talk about that because I know that's a big thing and that's a big barrier to people getting their children the therapies and services that they would love to get for them. So I just want to talk a little bit about my experience throughout the last 2 years. And hopefully maybe someone knows some tips, tools, tricks for me, and you can share them with me as well because I'm actively going through this all. So in the beginning, when Aaliyah was first diagnosed with autism, I had a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, out-of-state plan that the behavior therapy or ABA therapy clinic that we go to, they were new to the state. They hadn't gotten all their contracts in place yet for all the insurances. So they were technically out of network with my Blue Cross plan. But since it was kind of like, well, they didn't have their ducks in a row yet, so they can't really fault us for it. So we ended up coming up with a payment plan each month for her ABA therapy services. And I'll be transparent and say that for the last couple of years, I've paid $100 a month for her services, and she gets about 15 to 20 hours per week of therapy. And it's worked out great, right? Well, I just made a major life change. I left my job of 10 and a half years due to for multiple reasons. And I have been hired by a new employer. I have not started that job yet. I start on December 5th. I believe today's the 3rd, and I start on December 5th. So it's coming up very quickly. But the unfortunate thing that oftentimes we find when we are new employees is that, some companies are great and start benefits immediately. And I actually had a job offer for a job that did provide that. Unfortunately, their benefits as it relates to ABA therapy and the things that Leah needed were very poor. And so that was one of the decision or one of the key factors that forced me to kind of decline that offer. But then you also have companies who make you wait the 30 days, the 60 days, some even 90 days. In my instance, how it's going to play out is I won't have insurance coverage until February 1st. So roughly a little under 60 days. So in the interim, I did find like a short-term insurance plan that's very, very cheap, cheaper than doing Cobra or anything like that, that I will simply just put myself on. I'm relatively healthy, and so I feel comfortable doing that. But as it relates to my two children, my twin daughters, they've always been on their father's insurance plan. Mine was just always primary. So she still has her father's insurance, which is great, right? Unfortunately, we didn't realize during this process that they never, it's a two-way street, right? I never provided them with his insurance information, and they never asked for it either. And so when I started making this transition from jobs, I was like, hey, I'm not going to have insurance through my employer for X amount of time. She does have her father's insurance. I provided that stuff. We didn't wait till the absolute last minute or anything. I think I turned it in maybe a couple weeks prior. But there's verification process and things like that. And so as the time was progressing, and this past Wednesday, which was November 30th, that was my last day, as the time was creeping up to that, I'm like, hey guys, where are we? Because the last thing I want is for there to be a gap in her therapy or her, treatment time for multiple reasons, right? Staying consistent, keeping a routine schedule works really well for children on the spectrum, right? And works well for most people, honestly. So I didn't want to disrupt her schedule And then two, we've become very invested and love and adore our behavior tech, so much so that she actually spent Thanksgiving with us. She's not from here, and she wasn't able to get to her family, so she spent Thanksgiving with us. And so, and she's a college kid. I was a college kid many moons ago. Um, I know that you need every penny. I need every penny, and I'm not a college kid, right? So, I was also concerned about how that would impact her financially, because if she doesn't do treatment or do therapy, she doesn't get paid. So, there were a lot of things that were kind of like forcing me to like call a lot, email a lot, be like, hey, where are we at? Where do things stand? And it always came down to, well, it's the finance thing. And so what ended up happening, her father also has a Blue Cross plan. And unfortunately, ABA therapy is out of network. And so what does that look like? That looks like a 60-40 plan where the insurance pays 60% and we pay 40%. And, kind of backtracking a little bit, I had always heard from a lot of people that, oh, it's so amazing you were able to get her into ABA therapy. Most people can't afford it. It's pricey. Insurance doesn't cover it, all that. And I actually have a former colleague whose son is about 8 years older than my daughter. And I was just speaking with her yesterday, and she was like, it's just amazing that you were able to even get this service for her, because, we tried, we wanted all, we wanted all these things for our son, who, really could have benefited. But it wasn't even heard of at that time for insurance to even cover the therapy. So, which is heartbreaking because I know for a fact in the last 2 years of us doing this that it works. It really does. I mean, 2 years ago, I tell people all the time, 2 years ago, my daughter had never hugged me on her own free will. She had never told me, I love you, mommy. She hadn't done any of those things. And now she's like, I love you, mommy. Give me a hug. Let me kiss your cheek. You're the best mommy in the world. And all of these things on her own. She would, whine and, make sounds as opposed to saying, when she was upset that, hey, mommy, I'm upset and this is why. And now she does that, so I know that every child on the spectrum could benefit from it, no matter if if they're high functioning or not. They can all benefit from it. And so it's heartbreaking to know that many people aren't able to get those services to their child because of money. So fast forwarding to us, 60-40. So I'm like, okay, I'm sure that 40% is an awful amount, but lay it out, right? And they did. They said that ABA therapy with the particular company we're with, they charge $315 an hour. And my daughter currently gets about 15 hours of therapy per week. And that's, she's really, was originally approved for 30 hours a week, but, it was important for her to be in public school. She's in the first grade. I was like, she can be in a general education class, and it was important for her to go to public school. So instead of her going to the clinic throughout the week, like many other children do, and like just get their education through the clinic, instead of doing that, I was like, no, she's going to go to a public school. She's going to go to a public school with her sister. We can do therapy after school. We can do it on weekends. And so that's what we currently do. We do like an hour and a half, 3 days a week, and then like 3 or 4 hours a couple times a week. And then she goes to the clinic for roughly 5 hours a day, or on the Saturdays. So, round about 15 hours a week, and it works out extremely well for her. So yeah, when you calculate that out, if I remember correctly, that's $1,237 per week out of pocket expense. I don't know. I'm sure someone can afford it, but I know we cannot, and most people that we know personally cannot either. You're talking about $4,800 a month times 2 until my insurance kicks in, which pays 100%. And that was one of the key factors in me taking the job that I took, is that it's in network and they will cover 100% for her therapy. That was a big thing. And just a little tip, when in my interviewing process with different jobs, once I figured out that, hey, they like me, I like them, one of my main things that I asked for is, can I have a copy of your benefits package? And I went through and I called every insurance agency and I was like, hey, I'm not a member, but this is the provider my daughter has, and the company that that provider works for. Is this a network? And that was a key deciding factor for me as far as which job I was going to be willing to take. Um, and quite honestly, the job I took is a significant pay cut, but the benefits and the flexibility and things really, weighed heavy, and we'll just make that shift and make do. But anyway, so they told us the sticker price, we had shock. It was very emotional. I felt, to be honest, I felt very selfish for, choosing to make this move, this transition in my professional career. I was like, I left my job for mental health reasons. And, I felt like I was beating myself up and saying, I was so worried about my mental health that, it is now going to negatively impact Aaliyah and her progression and things like that. And so I was beating myself up, praying heavily. We are, praying people, and all of that. And I was like, look, like, I'm gonna tell you right now, we can't afford it. So what are our options? And so they did offer a financial assistance program. Didn't give me many details about it. They were just like, here, I'm going to send you this DocuSign document. Go in there, fill it out, and send it back. And so I look at it, and it's, very detailed as far as, what's your mortgage? What does your insurance look like? What are your utilities typically run? How much do you pay for your phone bill? Things like that. And so I gave those details. And I also included my offer letter for my new job to show there was going to be a reduction in pay. So don't look at my previous, don't look at a W-2, like look at where we're at currently. And they did. And after about 24 hours or so, I did get a notification, saying that we had been approved. Now I will be honest, like they had me send utility bill, water bill, phone, like they, it didn't just suffice me saying, hey, this is roundabout what each of these run each month. It's like, no, okay, well, what does your December bill look like? So I did that. I provided that because I'm like, look, this is our only shot. If we can't get financial assistance, like she's going to have to go without, and that's devastating. A lot of my friends though were kind of like, look, like you've already learned a lot of tips and tricks and tools over these 2 years. You can still implement that, and hopefully the hope is that very little progress would be lost, right? And so I was like, yeah, that's true, and it's not the end of the world and things like that. But as a mommy, as a parent, you really just want things to flow good, go good. There be no disruptions. You want your child to have consistency and just routine, right? So by the grace of God, they did approve us for the assistance. And so I was like, okay, well, or waiver actually is what they called it. And so I'm like, okay, well, what does this look like? What portion do we pay? Like, when can we resume services? All of those things. And they were like, it's a waiver. So that means $0 for you guys. So I practically passed out in my bedroom. They were like, $0. You have no portion to pay. We will send you guys checks. But it's just your job to make sure that you provide them to your provider. So I was like, shoot, we can do that, right? Right? We'll do whatever you need. And so I was like, okay, well, when can we resume services? And they're like, well, it's 2:00. Your therapist usually comes at 4:30. So today. I was like, oh my gosh. Now, unfortunately, she had already made plans for her day, which is fine. But she will resume on Monday, on December 5th. And so I'm super excited that like there wasn't a huge loss or a huge gap in her time away from therapy. But I wanted to just share this and discuss this with you all because this is big. Like, I mean, I had heard in the past that, like, oh, um, we just didn't do this therapy or didn't do this service because, we didn't have the means or the funds to do it, right? And I knew that and I heard that, but it just never, I guess it never really had been explained to me, really, like what that meant, what that looked like. And so this was a firsthand opportunity to really see what that meant and what that looked like. And it's not right. Like, there should be more in place. There should be so much more in place. Like, I feel like my situation was like kind of like a fluke, like kind of like a rare instance. I don't think that it was that, it's that easy for most people to be able to, you know, get through the financial barriers. And I don't know if it worked out so well just because we had been loyal customers, been with them for a couple years, all of that. I don't know all those outside things. I just know that I provided what they requested and they were like, okay, yeah, you qualify. Now, I do know there are lots of grants and programs um, across the country. I know for sure in the state of Tennessee there are a lot of programs out there, like the Katie Beckett program and some other things. And I'd applied for many of those things in the past and got rejected, got denied. So going into this particular issue this week, I was kind of like, we're gonna get rejected. My child's not gonna get what she wants or what she needs, and all of these things. And I'm so glad that I was wrong. I'm so happy that I was wrong, and that she's going to be getting what she needs. I mean, in fact, it is 9:42 a.m. and I am going to take her to the clinic because that starts at 10 a.m. So I will hop off. I just wanted to share that little story with you. If you guys have similar experiences or have anything to add, please, please, please put it in the comments below. I would love to have some open dialogue with people as it relates to autism, and just, create a community where we can all learn from each other and grow and just become better parents, and really just help our children out through all of the things that, they have to deal with throughout their life. So make sure you like, make sure you share, subscribe, all of that. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for joining me in Pieces of Lily.